People cannot tell me that Brother Stair did not know who Armstrong was. I think he idolized him and he tried to become him.
Reverend Stair, anything you want to say, sir?
Bless you.
Are you running a cult at that compound, sir?
I bless you, sir.
Are you brainwashing people?
I bless you, sir.
Did you sexually assault those two people, those two women?
I bless you, sir.
Do you have anything else to say besides I bless you?
May God bless you.
Television, alcohol, tobacco, sugar, and profanity are outlawed, as is laughter.
Not all psychopaths are killers. Many are CEOs of large companies, many are government organizational leaders, and some are cult leaders.
Stacy says one day the elderly preacher did the unthinkable to her inside a trailer on the compound.
He just sexually assaulted me right there.
Here he is back on the compound and he's doing the same fucking thing and getting away with it. This pisses me off.
Lita says she also was sexually assaulted by Stair for more than a year.
The preacher forced them to have sex with him over 70 times.
Even if you thought in your mind against him, you were in danger of going to hell.
What he does is use the Bible for his springboard, which is a great tool, a very powerful tool to back him up.
Nobody is going to believe anything you say. If you say something against him, you're going to hell. You're just like outcasts.
It's that weird Christian thing that breaks your brain by telling you that you're wonderful, beautiful, made by God, loved, and also a sinner and worthy of eternal torture. You know, it fucks you up.
And so primed for abuse.
Now, years later, the women say the recently posted video looks all too familiar.
Now he's abusing children in front of an entire congregation.
I was disgusted, but I wasn't surprised.
Because it was like, no, you can't be that strong, powerful woman. I'm taking it away from you. It was like a psychological fuckery.
Now, she can't help that, but she don't have to enhance them. I'm going to touch them things till nobody else can touch them.
Like, don't do things that are healthy for your children because you're worried about your eternal soul. Like, fuck off and pay attention to reality. God, it makes me so mad.
The former church members who came forward all eventually left the ministry. All say they still bear scars from their time at the farm.
And all he does is destroy families. In the name of Jesus, that's what he does.
They never got their justice. He died before they had a chance to get their voices out. But what we can do is talk about this so that it doesn't continue to happen.
Exactly. So much love. There you go. Welcome to another conversation with the Apostate Sisters. I'm Patty, and I make this channel with my sister Nancy. We grew up in a doomsday cult called the Worldwide Church of God. We're also nerdy about history and culture, but we're critical of religion. So get ready to get mad or to nod your head in agreement as we talk about yet another cult that impacted our lives. In today's episode, we're exposing a figure whose name you may not know, but whose damage echoes far beyond his South Carolina compound. We're talking about Ralph Gordon Stair, who called himself Brother Stair, a self-proclaimed God's end-time prophet whose ministry became a deeply harmful force in the lives of many. He was a man whose teachings carried unsettling parallels to the spiritual culture we grew up in. Yet, intriguingly, he never claimed to follow Armstrongism as far as we could find. Our parents attended church services at his compound for a time, and while we never met him ourselves, his shadow loomed large in the background of our teenage lives. Today we're telling his story, how he gained control, what it was like inside the commune he created, and the eventual unraveling of his empire after years of spiritual manipulation and even allegations of SA against minors. Brother Stair died before he ever served time for his crimes, but the damage he did and the beliefs he spread live on in ways we think are worth exploring. Help the sisters keep this healing content coming. Like, subscribe, and comment. Drop some dollars, or support us by becoming a channel member or patron for extra perks. Let's get started. Nancy, this one is one that you have been really passionate about because I think in some ways you were affected a little bit more by today's topic than I was growing up. So thank you so much for doing all the work to get ready for this and the research into this motherfucker. I mean, guy.
So, everyone that knows our story by now, we grew up in the Worldwide Church of God under Herbert W. Armstrong, a doomsday cult leader. What some people might not know about us is Armstrong was not the only cult leader that our parents followed. There was one that came right after that I know had a lasting impact on me for sure. I was just really immersed in it.
Brother Stair came into our lives via our dad. And the context I can give for that is it was, like 95, 96, somewhere in there. And our church, the Worldwide Church of God, had just gone through major doctrinal changes in 94, which meant 2 years past that, the church had been collapsing. People just absolutely hemorrhaging. And it's in this moment of chaos where all the people from Worldwide Church of God are questioning why they gave up so much life and money to this church when it was just going to change and fall away from them. And so it's in this context where there are so many people, including our dad, who feel lost because they had relied on the promises of their cult, the Worldwide Church of God, for so long, and poof, those ideas were gone. Well, guess what? Brother Stair, from his compound in South Carolina, had shortwave radio going on. So it's in this same moment the church has fallen away from our parents, and our dad loses his job. Our dad loses his job working as a computer consultant in Wisconsin, in one city in Wisconsin. And what he finds to replace it is a job that's 2 hours from our home. So where we're going to high school, Nancy, you and I, do you remember this time? Our dad gets this job 2 hours away. And so what he did was got a room to rent, which he called his flop. And he would come home on the weekends. So what does a bored cult member do when life's in upheaval? You're not even staying with your family during the week. Well, of course you listen to shortwave radio. Of course you do. And so here's this guy, Brother Stair, on the radio saying you keep the Sabbath just like the Bible says. And he's saying all of these Armstrongist points as if he's a guy that knows the truth. But he didn't ever connect himself to Armstrong. But of course, our dad heard it and is like, oh my gosh, the Worldwide Church of God is now heathens. They fell away from God's truth. But Brother Stair is following God's truth, and he's God's end time prophet. And wouldn't you know it, enough hours of our dad bathing his brain in shortwave radio by Overcomer Ministries' R.G. Stair, he believed it too. And so it led to the experiences Nancy had at home. I remember a little bit of our dad just listening for hours to Brother Stair. He would have his little Walkman and have tapes and stuff listening to it. And I remember that, but I was like 17, 18 at this point after it had been going on for a while, and I was ready to get the fuck out, Nancy. Yep. I'm sorry, I probably just ditched you, but I was like, holy shit, like the church had fallen apart. Dad's acting like a crazy person, doesn't have a job. I was like, nope, I'm leaving. And so I was off at college. And from there is when you really got the brunt of what was going on with our parents following Overcomer Ministries. But I thought it was important to understand the context of how our dad got into it. All the major things of our dad's life had just turned upside down. So talk about vulnerability to an angry, horrible message from this person, Brother Stair. Yes. And we were right there.
So how much of this do you actually remember, Patty? Because I know I've been talking about doing this episode for quite some time now. because Brother Stair's voice is actually the one that I remember like having in my mind. It's almost traumatizing, far more so than Armstrong. We may have grown up into the Worldwide Church of God, and into our teen years, but Brother Stair is the one that I actually remember the most. And so I feel it's really important that we talk about what I consider to be kind of really a dark period. It was like the darkest period of my life.
We bring to you the Overcomer radio broadcast. And this is a voice that is heard around the world 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, into all the nations of the world.
I remember when he was listening to it out loud in our house, and at some point, our parents had a mismatch of opinions on that. And so I don't know if it was because our mom didn't like it, but at some point, our dad went to headphones. So I remember hearing it out loud, and I remember our dad just walking around the house endlessly with headphones on and a Walkman on his pocket. I remember that. I remember him going to his flop during the week and coming home on the weekends. I remember I remember when church was fading. I don't really remember like we went this week and then we said we weren't going anymore. You know, so it's like I have very vague memories of it. And to me at that point, I think I was lumping everything together of like the crazy church stuff that our parents are doing.
Yes.
And I just wanted to get away so fast. But at the same time, that same year, I was getting sucked into an evangelical church. But to me, that seemed normal. So to give the context of that, like evangelical looked normal to me. And all I had ever gotten to be religiously was a weirdo. And so at that point, for me, it was like, I want to be normal. And so I was like, fuck off, Dad. And I was 18. I was 17, 18 by the time he was really all the way sucked into that. So sorry, I kind of just pieced out and went and did my own thing because
No, Pats, you have nothing to apologize for. I'm glad you got the fuck out of there. I was left to my own devices at age 17. That would have been, what, 1999. But yeah. So, Patty, for this episode, I actually did put together a bit of a timeline. I wanted people to get a sense of like who Brother Stair was as a whole. And yes, I'm just going to refer to him as Brother Stair. I know he gave himself that title, but that's how we always remembered him as. He had a commune in Walterboro, South Carolina. He was born in Pennsylvania in 1933. Now, this would have been around the same year that Herbert W. Armstrong started his ministry in Oregon. It was either 33, 34, somewhere in that time frame. And Armstrong began his ministry as Radio Church of God because Armstrong was also an early pioneer of radio. Now, Brother Stair, I don't ever recall him coming out saying that he knew who Armstrong was, but I think there's a good chance that he would have listened to him on the radio as a child. I don't know much about Brother Stair's background as far as his parents. I knew he was raised in, mainstream Christianity, and then he went on to become a pastor in the Methodist Church.
I always found it odd that it didn't seem like Stair tried to say anything about having known about Herbert W. Armstrong. It's almost like he tried to just take his ideas and pass them off as his own and not let anyone know where he got it from. I don't think he ever mentioned it. I really don't. But you're absolutely right. Like, if he's born in the same year that Armstrong had started the radio church, we know it was only a few years until that radio program was running coast to coast. And it was a big damn deal back in the day before it got fully labeled as a cult. And so, like, I don't see that there's any way Brother Stair wasn't impacted by it.
Well, you got to figure Brother Stair, it was like around 1950s that he started to get that like doomsday mentality and the end times. And Armstrong was being heard all over the place on his radio, and he started to get into television broadcasts, and then he had the World Tomorrow program. People knew who he was from like the 30s up until the 1950s. Again, nobody really thought that he was a cult necessarily. People were actually intrigued by what he had to say because this is going on during the Great Depression, the two world wars that Armstrong lived through. People would have been intrigued. I think Brother Stair could have been one of those people impacted by him, whether he actually said it or not. So by the 1950s, Brother Stair, like I think, is getting in his mind that he's going to be an apocalyptic preacher. And he moved down to South Carolina because he believed that the South was the safest place for Christians in the end times.
I just don't get that. What the fuck? Because of the Bible Belt?
Mm-hmm.
Ugh. Why is it that people who are eventually accused of heinous things tend to go where they think there's less oversight? Huh.
Something like that. But yeah, he went on to purchase a motel in like 1978. This is where he would start his commune in Walterboro, South Carolina, and it grew from there. Now, I did want to mention that before this, because Brother Stair is known to have been arrested a few times, at least 3 from what I understand. There was an incident that happened in the 60s, 1963, where he was arrested in Oklahoma for something along the lines of public indecency. He was using aggressive language and behavior, especially in front of a minor. So our dad is quite a researcher. I don't think there's any way he would not have come across this. Maybe he just brushed it off as, oh, this is just a minor charge, whatever. Who hasn't done something stupid when we were young, right? But it was the beginning of sort of a trend. And it shows like where his mind is at too. He's always been known as an aggressive person.
You see, the eyes are the light of the soul. When those eyes don't light up, and I see darkness there, the terror of the Lord grips my spirit. So I try to persuade man. The pastor was a pronounced open. Now, is that wrong? For sure. Have any of you experienced that to a little degree at times? When you refuse to hear what I've said? And then all of a sudden you... And you won't even be honest enough to say it. Because you want to blame that dark season in your life on me. And yet in that dark season, I was still talking. Still sending the light out. Still sending some kind of a word. Yeah. With great compassion. Yeah. But see, that's what this world and the spirit of this world is. They don't want to agree with God. He's a compassionate God. He's a merciful God. He's a long-suffering God. But no, God!
Oh, the way he talks is just like disgusting, and like you feel gross. Like he uses a lot of manipulative tactics to make people feel bad, and that's exactly what he did with his members. But so he's starting this radio program here in the 70s, and he's gaining followers because somehow this ideology is still popular, and then he started to grow.
But it wasn't regular radio, it was shortwave.
It was shortwave, yes.
Yeah. It's my understanding that shortwave radio goes a lot farther. You know, like a radio station might just be for your city, but shortwave, like something about the frequency itself, it can travel a lot farther and be heard a lot farther away. That's the only difference I know.
Have to use a satellite dish, correct? And do you remember that our father was obsessed with satellite dishes? Like we would be driving somewhere with the family and he would like pull on the side of the road just to look at like somebody's satellite dishes. I remember him talking to some people at their homes too about their satellite dish. He was just obsessed with them.
We had one. Do you remember that? He
I do
stopped to
remember.
talk to somebody about theirs and they're like, "Oh, you want to buy it?" And so we did.
Is that how it happened? He bought
I think
that?
so. Yeah, we went back to their land and there was a 10-foot satellite dish and we took it all apart and put it back up on top of our pole shed or something, right?
But yeah, so during this time period, Brother Stair is just continuing to gain his followers. And so he has followers all over the place at this point because people can listen to him on the radio. But he also had this commune down outside of Walterboro, South Carolina, where I think at the peak it was maybe about 70 members or so that lived there. And Brother Stair had the classic end times mindset, like he would tell people all of these prophecies, just like Armstrong did. There were a lot of parallels between the two of them. Like he would say, oh, President Reagan wouldn't even finish his term, and something was supposed to happen in 1988 involving some sort of nuclear confrontation. There were more. I know Armstrong has a shitload of these so-called prophecies that didn't come true, but Brother
Not as
Stair.
many as David C. Pack, though.
Oh,
That
Jesus.
guy is the prophecy
Dude.
king.
He's
Yeah.
only prophesizing on the date of the end time. I don't think he's prophesizing about anything else, right?
That's true. I think you're right about that.
It's fucking ridiculous. So then jump ahead to the 1990s, and Brother Stair is amassing quite the following around the world. He's going global, just like Armstrong did when he changed the name of his ministry from Radio Church of God to Worldwide Church of God because he was getting heard all over the place. Also, Brother Stair. So in the 90s, when the Worldwide Church of God was falling apart, Brother Stair was booming. He was heard on as many as, I want to say, 120 different radio stations around the world. Many different countries were hearing him. And his commune is just, it's rapidly growing as well.
So, I mean, 120 radio stations doesn't sound that dramatic until you realize that each of them have a range of thousands of miles to be heard.
Right.
Right. And I came across a little podcast talking about Brother Stair, and it indicated that in the 90s, shortwave radio might not actually have survived had it not been for the funds that Brother Stair had to actually buy all those hours of broadcasting time.
Oh my gosh. And that gets me to my next point here. I know in 2016 he received a sizable donation. I couldn't find out how much that was, but it had to have been a lot. This man told his followers to sell all their possessions and give them to his ministry. So you got to figure, of course, he's going to build up quite the amount of wealth, which what I understand is he had a budget of $1.5 million at one point. I don't know if that's like per year or how that worked, but he had a lot. And so he stuck it all into his shortwave radio so that he could be heard by people pretty much 24 hours a day.
And I find it almost auspicious that here it was the 90s that he's hitting his peak just as the Worldwide Church of God is falling apart and there's splinter churches being created. Like, I'm certain our dad wasn't the only one out there looking for someone with the fucking truth and found Brother Stair. You know, I mean,
he wasn't. Yeah. I came across like several articles that indicated people that wanted to leave the Worldwide Church of God because they were no longer Armstrongist. They needed a place to go. And all of the splinter churches that came out of that after the doctrinal changes of December of 1994, they had nowhere to go. Our father was amongst them. And while people say Brother Stair didn't target Armstrongist people, he found a way to reach them. Maybe that was just because he was so vastly heard on the radio. And of course, everyone is seeking the truth. Our father has just been nonstop seeking the truth. And there Brother Stair was to provide him the answers. He also had the Sabbath on Saturday and the holy days, which is what Armstrong was all about and he enforced. And Brother Stair was also on this same wavelength. It's just that he took it to a whole nother level. And I wanted to go over a few of the rules that were in place for not only his members, but people that listened to him. I don't know how it got to be that some people got to live down there in South Carolina on the commune, but either way, Brother Stair had very strict rules that his members were supposed to follow.
Okay, I have two things to say here. One is that the rules have always stuck with me, except I have an abbreviated version in my head. What
Same.
I remember from my time with the family was get out of the cities, get out of the churches, get rid of your TVs, and don't go to doctors. Right?
Yes.
So, like, we brought this up when we were doing the Wheel of Power and Control, because every single one of those is intentionally and entirely about isolation. Right? So, we could see at least that from back then. I know you've got more of these rules, but isn't it interesting? Here, this guy's got basically a worldwide presence by these radio stations and only 70 people at his little compound. And
Yep.
here our dad comes along listening to this guy and thinks, oh, well, I'm elect. I should be at that compound, and starts getting ready to get his ass down to Brother Stair's compound. Like, honestly, like, who did he think he was? He had the elect thing built up so much in his head that he just figured, well, if this guy's got the truth and this is where the real thing is, obviously that's where I belong. Like, what the heck, Dad?
And what did
That's
it do,
messed up.
Patty?
It's
It
messed up.
split our family apart, is what
Yeah.
it did. There's a reason they live in South Carolina right now. They moved out of the Midwest, and you and I just scattered to the wind. Him, our mother,
Because
and
they
our two
followed
younger
this guy.
siblings. Yes. He thinks he's still in it. He's back in one of the offshoots of Worldwide Church of God now, but for a time, I don't even know how many years it was now that they were with Brother Stair, but he thought Brother Stair was it. He was the answer. He was in the right place. And I remember our mother was not okay with it for a time. I just remember being told that we were not going to go to church anymore for Worldwide. And I was so ecstatic about that because I fucking hated everything about church.
But I remember when Just Dad started going, and I was like, you all can fuck all the way off because I'm about to be 18. I'm about to graduate from high school and I am getting out of this fucking hellhole. And I was not gonna go there until I got evangelicalized. Damn it.
I don't blame you at all, Pat. So stop apologizing that you left me behind. I had to go through what I went through to become as strong as I am today. Seriously, what if our parents hadn't split up the family and then we stayed? Or like, would I still be kind of like influenced to them, like shut away from the rest of the world? I'm just thinking like socially, culturally.
You mean
Obviously, I
like
never believed in this shit, but
you mean like
becoming
if they
like him.
had not left the church, like if they had stayed through the changes and just became more standard evangelical with our cult? Is that what you
I don't
mean?
know. I knew that was never going to be a possibility because our parents are just too extreme, especially dad. That was
Yeah.
never going to happen. We knew that.
Well, as Dad was getting into this Brother Stair shit, our mom was like, not gonna move with him down there.
Right. And that's what I was getting to
Okay,
is
go ahead.
after we had like stopped going to church, I don't know how much time it was until our father actually like came into the kitchen and like talked to us all very nonchalant, like we're moving to South Carolina. He just up and throws that on us. And I look at mom like she's clearly not on board. I was like, Mom, do you agree with this? She's like, nope. Nope. That's what she said. She just, nope. I had never seen
Okay,
her disagree with our father ever in our lives. You were not
Nancy,
here for this conversation, were
I
you?
was not. You know what my
Okay.
end of that conversation was? Was I got a call in my dorm room
Mm-hmm.
that said, well, first at the beginning of the school year, well, Dad lost his job. And then it was the house sold. Come get your stuff. That's what I
That
got.
was the conversation.
Yeah, I don't even I must have known when it was going on the market, but all I got was the house sold, come get your stuff. And so I came home from college on a weekend and loaded things into the back of my did I have my truck then? I don't even
I don't
remember.
know.
Somehow I managed to get a bunch of my shit, like a dresser and a few boxes of things, over to my boyfriend's parents' house at the time because I didn't have anywhere to put things. And so then I ended up moving 11 times during college just to like here to there and everywhere because I couldn't go back home anymore.
Okay.
So that was my side of it. I didn't see that
Yes.
dramatic moment. Holy shit.
So I figured I would talk a little bit about what happened in these few years that our father was transitioning, like from the time that he left Worldwide Church of God until he started really getting indoctrinated into overcomer ministries with Brother Stair. There was definitely a shift in our father's attitude, I noticed. He became much more rude. He was very aggressive. It seemed like whenever one of us kids needed something, he was like, "Ugh, what do you need?" Like he just seemed irritated with us. Like he didn't even want to be around us. It was like he didn't really care about anything else anymore. Like he was addicted to knowing everything that he possibly fucking could about Brother Stair because he thought this is where God wanted him as the true follower of Christ. It's just, there was even one time he knocked me out of my chair because I was just so shocked at how he talked to me, how he talked to mom. I don't remember what that was, but he like knocked me out of the chair and I thought he was going to choke me.
Wait, what? He pushed you? Like physical?
Like
Got physical?
pushed me it pushed me out of the chair, yeah, but I thought he was
What?
like I thought he was gonna like beat me up. That's the look in his eyes of like, I want to destroy you right now for speaking to me that way. And I think it was because I said, oh my God, because I was just so shocked at how he was talking to us, taking the Lord's name in vain. That's a no-go. I could have said fuck, no problem. Well, he wouldn't have liked that either, but you definitely don't say oh my God. So that's what I was dealing with. My bedroom was right off of the dining room, and that's where he sat on his computer listening to Brother Stair. This is before he got the headphones, right? So I'm hearing everything he's listening to, this disgusting, creepy, crotchety old voice of Brother Stair. You just look in his eyes and you just want to puke. All right, his voice is even worse. And there was like, it's like he had no life at all. Not that he really did before this, but he definitely didn't after he got sucked into Brother Stair's ministry because he lived for it. There was nothing outside of it. I don't even think he sat at the table and ate dinner with us. Like, I think he started grabbing plates of food and just going back to his computer to listen to Brother Stair again. That things are starting to come
Oh.
out in my mind as I'm listening to it. But I did want to talk a little bit more about the rules that Brother Stair had in place because they really affected me. Now, you already mentioned get out of the cities was one of them, one of the big ones. Now, obviously, Brother Stair believed that the southern states in the U.S. were like God's place of safety for true Christians.
Oh my God. I
It is
just,
commune. I
what the
don't
fuck? Okay.
I don't know what the criteria was for his
States
followers
with less rules,
actually.
probably. I mean, there are certain states that tend to have more communes than others because of the oversight that the state seems to do or not do.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Fuck.
And I did want to reiterate that I had not even completed high school at this point, and it was only a
Mhm.
few months until I was going to when dad actually up and moved the family, and I
Oh
had to
my God, you're right.
move into another family who they didn't even know, and they
But
were,
Nancy, but we had to fight for that because
I know.
by this point I was aware that the family was up and moving, and I was like, what the fuck are you doing? Because I'm in college, so yes, I have to take care of myself, but that's fine. I wanted to, didn't want them around anymore. But I was like, why are you taking Nancy? She's almost done with high school. How dare
Hmm.
you? And so, whether it was the right choice or not, it's what you and I did is we basically like I was getting serious with our parents. Like I was not being their child anymore. I was 18 and I was
Hmm.
like, we are not gonna do this. You are not taking Nancy out of high school and taking her down to South Carolina. Like, how fucking dare you?
Can you
So,
fucking imagine? God.
I can't. I have kids that age now. Like, no. You, you make
Like they couldn't
choices that are
even
for the whole
wait.
family, not just for your own, like, soothing your soul because you don't know what to do with yourself because you got yourself in a cult. Like, don't do things that are healthy for your children because you're worried about your eternal soul. Like, fuck off and pay attention to reality. God, it makes me so mad. I'm sorry. I know we're gonna
Patty.
get into this later, but the grief, the anger over
Yeah.
like the loss of our childhoods in a way is like finally hitting me.
As it should. Of course, we're furious. But you know what, Patty? In a way, I am super grateful it happened the way that it did. Yes, life sucked for quite a few years, being out on my own at 17 and trying to navigate moving from place to place and just not living a good life at all. it's still better than what I could have ended up with going down by that commune in South Carolina. Like,
Yes.
who the fuck would
Yes.
I be today? Right?
Yeah.
It's, but like I said, of course he left like not long before I graduated high school. He didn't care about any of us, not even really himself. Like he just cared about following what he thought was the truth.
And
That's
his wife
it.
was just there to care for him and feed him.
Of course. She
And
didn't,
she
she
should
was
be
not
lucky
on,
that she gets him to care for her.
she was not on board for any of this. In fact, our mother wanted to like take us four kids and go live somewhere in town and just let dad do his thing. I think she was like ready to divorce him. And I don't think she was ever
I,
convinced because she at one point said, "Oh, yeah, I agree." But I could tell in her voice, like, you don't agree with this. You just don't want to split up our family. You're trying to be the good wife over here, even though you think your husband has lost it. And he did. He
she
fucking
looked at
lost
apartments. She
it.
went
Yes.
so far as to look at apartments in the small town near us.
Yeah.
But I mean, I wouldn't have been there. But had she done that, I would have had a place to go back to in the summers after college
Mhm.
or between college years, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, I wanted to get back to the rules. So we talked about getting out of the cities and preferably moving down south. I don't know what the criteria was for people that got a chance to go onto the commune, and I don't know why our parents didn't move directly on the commune in Walterboro. They lived outside of it, but they were close enough that they attended all the services, but we can get there. Another one was stay out of the churches, meaning if you were going to a different church, you had to leave it immediately and only listen to Brother Stair's broadcast. So you're
Of
cutting off
course.
all that information as well. Absolutely. Yeah, you don't want outside information influencing people that you're trying to control. All right. Another one, and this is a big one, get rid of your TV. If you want to talk about a way to get information from an outside source, TV was it. And I remember the day that our father actually took the TV away. It was like the rest of the stand was sitting there and it was just empty. For some reason, he allowed us to listen to audio, like listen to movies and stuff audio, but we couldn't watch it. And so the only thing that made me happy in my teen years was watching my show Xena. And our little brother used to watch Star Trek Next Generation because it came on right after. And he took that away from us. And so, like, I was so pissed because Xena was what got me through the day. And I couldn't even have that fucking entertainment. So I was furious.
I think Xena is more critical to your growing up than you maybe have realized.
So was Lara Croft. I used to play Tomb Raider a
Yes.
lot.
Well, think about like the position of women as it was like put forth to you for your entire growing up, and then recognize the absolute badass, powerful, like I will kick your ass and kill you
Right,
women that you idolized once you were old enough to like start thinking about like what kind of woman do I want to be? Like
right.
obviously no one thought you were gonna like be Xena with a chakram on your hip or whatever. But the idea of a woman who could fight for herself and fight for good in the world, was
Yeah.
like who you were drawn to. And I find that kind of sweet and beautiful, actually.
Well, I think joining the military was as close as I could have gotten to those heroines of mine, Lara Croft and Xena. But I just feel
Damn
like
close.
that was something that made me so happy, and I was stripped of it because it was like, no, you can't be that strong, powerful woman. I'm taking it away from you. It was like a psychological fuckery that just played
Yes.
with me that whole time. And all I could do was sit and listen to these shows and not even watch them. It was so fucked up.
Well, I remember the TV thing because remember that was one of the four rules I did know about. Because when I came home that next year, at the end of the school year, I think that was my
Mhm.
freshman year of college, there was our 27-inch cathode ray tube TV sitting in the shed, all wrapped up in black plastic bags. And so I took that fucker with me to school the next year. I had the biggest TV on the floor
Yeah.
back when
Yeah.
27 inches was a big TV. It's funny.
So yeah, we had that fuckery. Another thing, so like the fourth one that we were told about as one of the major rules in the Overcomer ministry was not going to doctors. Like legit not going to doctors. Now, I remember we talked about Herbert W. Armstrong at one point. He was enforcing that no one should go to doctors. You have to rely on divine intervention. But after Armstrong died in the 80s, it was like that kind of faded away, maybe even as early as the 70s, because so many people were needing medical treatment, including men of his upper echelon, all of his evangelists. And so when they were getting all of this medical care and the members on the bottom weren't, it started becoming a problem. So I think it was like just this unspoken thing where people started going to doctors again, and it wasn't really enforced because it's so fucking stupid and you can't even manage a society without it. But with Brother Stair, it was very strict as far as not going to doctors. In fact, I do want to throw out the fact that one of the things that Brother Stair did to get on the radar of the FBI was that at least 3 infants had died not long after childbirth on his commune because they did not get the medical care that they needed. Now, I'm assuming that there are more. It's just this is what became public, and I'm sure there were a lot more people that needed medical care and they didn't make it because they didn't get what they needed. So those were the 4 major things that you and I knew about before I actually researched Brother Stair years later. Another one was that Brother Stair told all of his members that they were not to contact anyone outside of the ministry, meaning any friends, any family like you and I. I remember, I don't know how I knew this, but Brother Stair specifically told our father he was not to contact you and I because
Really?
we were the whores of Satan, he called us. Again, I don't know how in the fuck I got this information, but I had heard about it and I was like, are you kidding me? So there was a period where at least a couple years where mom and dad, I know they didn't communicate with me. Not that I would have paid attention. I was probably drunk or on drugs at the time because I was going through my really dark years of trying to navigate this world as a 17-year-old with no support, no one to co-sign me even for an apartment, living in my car a couple of times, and a lot of promiscuity and men trying to take advantage of me. It was just a dark period. So like I don't even know if I really noticed whether they had like contacted me or not. Not that it's really changed over the
They
years.
didn't.
So, but that's why. Is because Brother Stair told them not to contact us. That was in his rules. Like, you do not have any outside information. It was like you ignore the rest of the world. All that matters is what's in this ministry and what I'm telling you. His word was law. And of course, he made it seem like God was talking through him to his members. So that was another one. And also, all right, so we know about selling the possessions. That was another big rule that Brother Stair said you cannot have any possessions. You have to sell everything and give it to the ministry. I don't know how the fuck that was supposed
Nancy,
to work for people not living on the commune, but
Nancy, I think our parents sold the house in Wisconsin, the big farmhouse, and gave him the money.
oh fuck, are you serious?
I think so. Yeah. Do you remember they were renting a trailer?
But then why weren't they living on the commune? That's my question.
I know. Do you want me to tell you?
Yes.
Okay. Mom would talk to me occasionally. So,
Okay.
Brother Stair was very, very particular about who he actually invited to come live in the
Hmm.
commune. And so you had to be invited, right? It wasn't like you could just move there.
Of course.
Yes. So there was like a vetting process where you had to sort of prove yourself. And so people were allowed to come to church at the commune for services. And once you had proved yourself out, you could potentially be invited in. So that's what they were doing. They were trying to go live in their falling apart trailer home because it's all they could afford since I think they gave the money to Brother Stair already.
That would make sense.
Yep. Um, they're hoping to be invited in to the commune while attending Sabbath services,
Mm-hmm.
but they're doing, I don't know how long that typically took, but they're attending for a couple of years. And at somewhere in that point, it's a familiar story, our dad is like, huh, he's not following the Bible right here. And so, of course, our dad goes ahead with trying to prove in the Bible why that leader doesn't actually have it right.
He started to question things that Brother Stair was doing and
Yep.
saying before they even got a chance to be invited on the commune.
And as
How do you,
soon as he mentioned it, our dad, very like, I don't, it's a weird thing to say, but like pure hearted, like our dad is like, truth is everything. Like
everything?
he doesn't actually want to control other people other than if it's truth, right? As far as I can tell. And so he doesn't understand men like Herbert Armstrong or Stair. So he's thinking, oh, I found a thing that Stair's wrong about. I can show him in the Bible. He's going to want to know because, of course, he wants to do the true thing that's in the Bible. These guys want truth just like I do.
Oh
This
yeah.
is this is what I think our dad is like, though. Like, and he thinks he's doing a service and has now figured out, oh shit, I went against God's man.
Mm-hmm.
And
Which there were
so
a
I think
lot of
he kind of
men.
keeps
First,
getting put in his place a little bit because he doesn't realize it's not actually about truth, it's about control that these guys have. So our dad did it again with Restored Church of God, pushed back on something out of the Bible he thought was right, and he got kicked out. So all that to say, the whole Brother Stair thing was you had to be invited in. Our dad hung around long enough to prove to himself that it was not actually God's truth and was distinctly disinvited from attending after that. So that's how they left Brother Stair's church.
okay, so he was disinvited. He was disfellowshipped.
Yeah, basically. I mean, they were, yeah, yeah. So they were never invited to live there. And
Okay.
then they were disinvited from attending, or they decided to not attend. It was some clusterfuck of that.
Yeah. I might be jumping ahead a little bit, but yeah, after that all went down, was it Restored Church of God under David C. Peck that they had joined right after that?
I don't think right after that there was some floating around for a while, but I don't know for sure because I was not cued into the offshoot names at the time.
Well, right.
So for a while, once they quit Brother Stair, I believe they were in their house because they did buy a ramshackle house for,
Yep.
$19,000 or something like that at some point. Yeah.
You mean
Mm,
a piece of shit that's falling apart and with gigantic holes in the bottom where raccoons come up into your house on a regular
yeah.
basis. Yeah,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
That one that they still own, correct?
Yep. I mean, literally, Nancy, we just have to prepare ourselves for when they pass to pay to have it bulldozed. That's so sad. It's so sad. Anyway,
Like, yeah.
they had gotten themselves into that, I think, while they were still on the Brother Stair train. For some time while they were living in that house, I don't know if it was Brother Stair or if it was restored or if there was some other offshoot in the middle. They had periods of driving 2 hours somewhere to attend services with about 50 people. They had periods of time when they were having tapes, and I think it was actually tapes,
Yeah,
not
I'm not
CDs,
surprised by that at all.
sent to their house because they just weren't close enough to whatever offshoot they were paying attention to or paying
That
homage
makes
to at
sense.
the time. Yeah,
Yeah.
so I can't keep track of it because it's been since 1999, this wild, raucous adventure of theirs, riding the riding the Armstrongest wave as it peters
Right.
out. Um,
Hmm. Yes.
yeah. So all of those things happened. I don't know the years that they connected with each group. But yeah,
Yeah.
the Brother Stair thing continued on for so much longer than it should have. But thank goodness they never got invited into it because fuck, what would have happened to our mom and our sibling that's
No.
there? And yeah,
They lived very much similar to like you would think of the Amish. It was very self-sustaining. It was very gender based too. Men would do yard work, women would do the cooking and prepping and cleaning. Women had to wear skirts. I remember this too. Like when they were living in South Carolina, women had to wear skirts, long ones, no pants whatsoever, and
that's right.
they couldn't cut their
Oh my
hair,
God.
Pat. They
Nancy, I
couldn't
forgot
cut
about
their
this.
hair and they couldn't wear makeup. So mom never wore makeup anyway, but her and our little sister, They couldn't cut their hair. And so I remember once when I visited them down in South Carolina, their hair just looked like shit. I'm sorry, it looked like shit because it was like all long and straggly. I'm like, why aren't you cutting that shit? They couldn't cut it. They couldn't cut it all. Men had to wear pants too, no shorts for them, and they had to wear collared shirts. So these were the rules as far as like what you had to wear. Okay. Sugar was another thing that was a no-go. You couldn't have sugar, which included things like candy. They grew their own vegetables and had their own animals, and so yeah, very self like sustaining.
That one's so weird. I didn't know the sugar one. Hang on, I have a
Yeah,
tickle
no
in my throat.
sugar. Isn't it interesting that Armstrong kind of had something similar? Or not, maybe not Armstrong, but he was all about like the natural foods and making sure you don't eat shit like fake sugar.
You know what's weird? That's where I was going to go with that conversation, but I have not come across anything to make me think that Armstrong pushed that. It had to have been something that went out in like, I don't know, women's newsletters or something, because I've heard this from other former culties with us that like processed foods and sugary cereals and all of that were sort of eschewed. But it was such a big deal when we were little that I thought sugary cereals were against our religion because everything was against our religion.
Exactly.
But so it's interesting to see it on this list here for Brother Stair because that's what I'm saying is like I knew that growing up in Worldwide, but I don't think it was never stated that I knew of, Nancy.
Nope.
So I find that
Not
interesting.
specifically. Not specific.
Yeah.
So again, people cannot tell me that Brother Stair did not know who Armstrong was. I think he idolized him and he tried to become him.
Yeah. Right. It's weird. It's almost like, oh, I know about this guy. No one else is gonna realize I'm doing the same thing. I don't get it. So okay. A distinct difference I am noticing though is the isolation piece
Hmm.
because Brother Stair was very clearly like he's just gonna physically, mentally, everything actually isolate you from the world.
Yep.
But what Armstrong did was maybe almost a little more insidious because he left people in the world, but like put them in a mental prison to feel like they were separate from it while actively being in it and seeing it. Because Armstrong wanted you to see what happened in the world, because then every bad thing you observed would be something to reinforce that Armstrong was right.
I think Brother Stair tried to do that, but he just failed miserably. He had some prophecies, predictions, and that, of course, they didn't come true. But I feel like he almost gave up on that and just started putting the guilt trip on his members instead. And so they wouldn't question him. Typical manipulation tactics, which we'll go over. But since we were still on the discussion of the actual commune, I was doing some research on Stare, and I did come across this comment on one of the YouTube reaction videos to him, and it gives a lot of insight from coming from someone who actually lived on the commune. And so I do want to read it. It's a little bit lengthy, but I think it's really good description, and I kind of wanted to give this person a voice, not only for her but other people that survived this man, because we haven't even gotten into the sexual assault allegations yet.
Hmm.
Um, but all this was happening too. But just to give everyone like a description of what went on in the commune, and this is very similar to what other people have said about it. First-hand observation of this cult from yours truly. I lived through it. This charismatic, domineering man, R.G. Stair, provides his followers with a feeling of exclusivity and unique belonging, accompanied with omission of need to think for oneself, be burdened by the outside world, and free of all dark pasts. With a catch. Cult members, followers, brothers and sisters, the body of Christ, the bride of Christ, I hate it. Whatever they want to call themselves, are stripped of the basic human right of free thinking shortly after arriving. In fact, if Stair is questioned at all, that person is rebuked and shamed in front of the rest of the followers. Sounds familiar, yeah? Cult members are berated daily via in-person, sermons at meal times, tabernacle gatherings, and sermons played over a loudspeaker on the property. Can you fucking imagine? It's like not only are you going to services on a regular basis, but he's playing sermons on the loudspeaker on this place. Holy fucking constant indoctrination.
Oh my God, all that makes me think of is like Clockwork Orange. You ever seen that fucked up
Holy
movie?
shit, yes!
It's like Clockwork Orange, except without spikes in your eyeballs. What the hell?
Dude.
Well, but that's how you can make yourself believe anything,
Right.
right? Belief is a habit of thought. So if you continually put this bullshit in someone's brain, they're just gonna take it on. I
Yeah.
mean, I've done this with like witchy magical systems. I've intentionally bathed my brain in an idea and you start to believe it.
Yeah.
Eh, Holy shit.
Yes, exactly.
Loudspeakers, sermons while they're eating.
Yep. It's like what Dad was doing. He was just listening to the shortwave radio, constantly hearing Brother Stair's voice, and then he gets into his earbuds so that it's just in there
But
constantly.
listen, what the fuck happened to our dad that he literally knew how to self-indoctrinate himself, like redundant, before Stair even did it? Like
Exactly.
he just
Yes.
willingly did it to himself. How does someone get set up for that?
I know.
1950s public school? Probably.
Could be. I wonder if Dad ever questioned Armstrong. I don't think he did. I think he took everything Armstrong said and rolled with it. But then he started to question Brother Stair. He just wasn't quite speaking the truth. And he
Okay,
questioned David C. Pack, the same thing.
our dad's dad was a Mason, like went to the
Yeah,
Masonic temple.
right. Freemason.
That
Yep.
has a little, yeah, Freemason.
It could.
Eh. Oh my
I do
God.
have I do have more comments, but yeah, it's
Okay. Sorry,
this
I'm
is
just like holy
you're fine.
generational curses and ugh. Okay, go ahead. Keep going.
So getting back to the loudspeaker at the property, she's saying the message is repetitive and is accompanied with scripture. The gist? It is. These are the end days. Jesus is soon returning. The criteria for not burning forever in hell are listening to the prophet, repentance, obedience, humility, and repeat.
Holy shit.
And she says it again: repentance, obedience, humility, and repeat. If you fall out of line and then one is brutally tugged back, and the public shaming and fear mongering.
And
She
this
goes
is all hitting on lizard brain stuff, right? Because if you've decided these are my people, this is how I stay safe,
right.
then they can use that against you.
Classic tactics. She goes on to say, to further ensure one's soul is saved, Brother Stair essentially makes each community member destitute without him. Textbook, isn't it? People are lured into this little farm community, made to believe it's exclusive and difficult to gain approval into, which it was.
Yep.
Then they are manipulated into selling or giving away all they own and are told to show up with virtually nothing. I remember they don't even have vehicles. Like they used bikes to get around. No phones, no
Oh.
you have no connection to the outside world whatsoever. All right. So the message is taken by the followers as a test from God, an invitation to be obedient and be in God's favor via said obedience and leap of faith. Conveniently for Stair, this results in an excellent position of leverage, no doubt just as he planned, and the new cult member now has no home, no money, no car, and a fresh estrangement from heartbroken and angry family members and friends on the outside who see right through everything and raise alarm. That was us.
Well, I don't know that we had insight to be able to like understand exactly because we didn't like all we knew was cult ways of life.
Right. Well, Patty, I don't think we really had a chance to even understand what was going on because again, I was just trying to fucking live.
Yeah.
Some of it was on the streets. You were off at college doing your thing, getting indoctrinated into evangelicalism because it was a little bit prettier than what we were used to. And you were just trying to feel something too. We had to go through what
Yeah.
we went through.
Well, right.
This is what's going on with our parents that we didn't
Ugh.
really know much about. So the family and friends are dealt with via a twist of scriptures that support Stair's need to alienate his followers from their families and the outside world, logic, rationale, and so on and so forth. Of course, he used fucking scripture to justify what he's doing. There always is a passage that pertains to what they're doing. Cult members are led to believe their family and friends are chastising them for their beliefs, which further goes along with the end of days, few are chosen message. I lost my childhood and my adolescence because of this monster who calls himself the last day prophet of God. It took me the better part of my teens and 20s to figure out how to function in society outside of Stair's brainwashing. I miss my mother. She still believes every damn thing that psychopath tells her. Now, this is probably
Oh,
about 4 or 5 years ago that this comment came through, which he died in 2021, but
yeah.
we'll get there. Yeah. Once somebody follows somebody like this, it's only a matter of time before those people go on to somebody else who's teaching something similar, hence our father. But
Yeah.
she's speaking in a way that really, I think, it resonates with me for sure, and I'm sure it does you as well.
Yeah. She was actually on the commune. Holy shit.
Right, and that's why I figured it was important to read her comment, and I've got more too. It's a long one, but I think it was very important to read her message here.
I mean, just think, Nancy, had all of the church collapse stuff had happened like, I don't know, a year or two earlier than it did, we could have fucking ended up there.
And if you hadn't fought to keep me in Wisconsin away from this bullshit, who knows where I would have ended up? That really scares me. Just isolation, pure isolation. Ugh. Ugh. Okay, anyway, I'll continue here. So, yes, she uses the term psychopath. That is the correct term for what Stair is. Not all psychopaths are killers. Many are CEOs of large companies, many are
That's true.
government organizational leaders, and some are cult leaders. All are cold and calculating, lack empathy, and some know how to fake human emotions very well. True that.
Damn.
Psychopaths are more likely to swindle, control, steal, manipulate, and orchestrate well-calculated agendas to their own benefit. At the expense of others, then they are to become the cliche serial killer. Yeah, that makes sense. They are in it for the game, the sport of being the puppeteer, and the amusement of watching the chaos and destruction they cause. I'm also getting Armstrong and David CPAC vibes as well. Just gonna go there.
Ooh.
All the people that our father has been drawn to, which we'll get into more. I've tried countless times to reach out to my mother and talk her into leaving. I've provided solid psychology pointing to who Stair really is, to her own victimization. My mom won't listen. She thinks the devil is influencing my opinion, and she ignores all pleas to return to her family and those who love her. It's the exact same story for every person there. I believe that. Some who have left describe a recollection of feeling extremely afraid, as if they were doing something wrong against God, as if they were thoroughly brainwashed and traumatized. Obviously, because they were. And she just goes on to say, I don't know what else to do. This is absolutely heartbreaking. That man is a monster. And that is how she ends her comment. So she was in the
Holy
thick of it. She was
shit.
on the commune, and her mother was still in it at this time.
Isn't it crazy that at this point we could be happy that our parents have like stepped down their crazy to be in Church of the Great God, even though it's still Armstrongist?
Is it that much better though? I don't know. They seem
It's
happy where
not.
they're at, but
Well, but there's like, I think I've heard the word empathy or something. There's like something that has just like a tiny piece of some sort of compassionate something going on in the church that they're in currently. And so I'm like, okay, just gonna, I mean, I'm not gonna fight them on it anyway. They don't even want to talk to me, most likely, but
And I think that's okay. I don't know that they really want to talk to either one of us right now. The only reason there's like a semi-relationship between me and them is because I actually have put in an effort, meaning maybe I'll call them once every couple of months because they'll never call us. They'll never call us.
and that's been the same for me, Nance. Like I was the one reaching out, and then once I was like, I bet they're not even gonna reach out, and so I didn't. And it took 6 months, and then they called to say hi. But I've done that again, and now they don't.
Well, I wanted to get
Whatever.
into, okay, so them leaving, we're back to this point now. I don't know what year it was, but something made Dad leave. Obviously, we think our mother was not on board with any of this the whole fucking time. And so our father made the decision to not be part of this. Maybe he was, I don't know, feeling butthurt that he was not invited to the commune. I guess he thought, oh, well, I'm just not good enough Christian. But I think, yeah, it really boils down to Dad. I remember Dad saying that, oh, he's a false prophet. He figured out he was a false prophet. And that,
That
and
was
like,
where mom would talk to me, right? Because we've decided that that's kind of how they split up talking to us a little bit. And so mom was telling me that dad had discovered things that didn't match and that he was bringing it up and it was not received. And they were actually disinvited from attending there anymore.
yeah,
Yeah.
disfellowshipped like he was at
Yeah.
Restored. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, I don't know the specifics surrounding that. I do know what happened with Restored Church of God and David C. Peck when he questioned, what constitutes a day, which we've talked about. And we'll talk about David C. Peck a little bit more, but at this point, yeah, it just Brother Stair. Can we just take a moment to fucking like breathe and be like, what the actual fuck? Why couldn't our father just lead? I don't want to say normal life, but like integrate into society and be not extreme about everything that he felt he needed to be extreme about. Holy
I have
shit.
I've tried to figure this out. Like, where did this come from? All of his siblings went on to live pretty much the most like the full range of what you might expect from a family of kids in the Midwest who are now in their what 60s and 70s. Like they had the most not boring, they were all good lives, but like normal lives. Except our dad. Why? Okay, so here's the thing. If you look at old pictures of our dad's family, him and his siblings growing up, there was 7 of them. So they'd take the pictures all like height order, you know?
Yeah, I remember.
Okay. But if you look at down the line of all the kids, they're all just smiling, except our dad would be like, mm. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a reason that we are the way we are. But like,
Goofy? Yeah,
he was different, you know? Autistic? Probably. Something
probably.
else too? Probably. You know? Um,
Patty, you mentioned in one of our previous episodes on how our father he lacked social skills for sure. Like
yeah.
he did not know how to talk to people in society. In fact, I had a hard time too because of all the indoctrination from a child and not knowing how to talk to people because we were really closed off. You
Yeah.
had it pretty figured out, but I didn't figure out until I was literally like in my 30s.
Oh, I mean, I think I pretended having it figured out. I figured out pieces that I could do that made it look like I had it figured out,
We're gonna
Nancy.
hashtag life. Yeah.
But then I was just like, oh, I think everyone's making it up. But I actually don't know if everyone is. I don't know.
Oh,
Whatever. Doesn't matter.
I always wanted to be real, but I'm glad I am now. But now we are revisiting this fuckery, trying to make sense of it so many years later,
Well, also our dad lost his dad at 16.
Right.
I always wondered if that made a difference. And our dad was the 4th kid. And so I've talked with our cousin, whose dad is the 2nd kid. And the story about who their dad was coming from our cousin versus everything we've heard from like the younger kids' children, like it's different. Like I think that our grandfather was very attentive and did the damn thing of parenting with the older boys in the family. And
Oh,
I
right.
think by the time our dad came along, it's too many kids. You can't keep doing that. And so I think there was something weird there where our dad sort of got glossed over by his dad and he was kind of looking for like, what are the right things I can do to get attention?
Yeah,
I don't know.
it could.
I'm not going to solve it, but this is my way of trying to figure out what the heck happened that gave us the childhood we had.
Yeah. No, it's worth looking into, and that's why we're discussing it to see what we
Yeah.
can come up with. But yeah, we'll go over some of those psychological things to try to figure this out. But I did want to talk a little bit about what was going on in those years prior to our parents leaving, because Brother Stair started entering the news. Now, I think one of the main things, not only did it come to light that these infants were dying on the commune because they weren't getting medical treatment. I don't know if that's actually what brought the FBI in to look at, but there were sexual assault allegations, including of minors. So what happened was the first one came in 2002. So remember, he had already been like arrested for public indecency in front of a minor back in the 60s. I don't know if his members actually knew about that, but come 2002, so just 2 or 3 years after our parents actually moved down to South Carolina, which I think they were still with the organization, there were two young women that came forward. So their ages were 17 and 20. They came forward into public like to accuse him of sexual assault. At the time, the dude is 69. Gross. They said that he coerced them by enforcing his religious and personal beliefs on them. Gross. So probably what he did was to justify what he was doing to them was he would just take a scripture and be like, see, tells you you're supposed to do this. Doesn't that sound like that?
Ew.
And two years later, he actually pled guilty to this, to the charge of assault and battery. And then he was sentenced to time served, a total of, get ready for it, 77 days. Yeah, by sexually assaulting minors.
I'm glad that we're locking up people with marijuana charges for years.
Yeah, that's really
That
important.
makes a lot of fucking sense, doesn't it?
It
Let
ruins so many lives for
dick
fuck's
fucks like that go free.
sake. Yeah, yeah.
No
So
justice, no
then,
peace, my friends. No justice, no peace.
but then we jump ahead quite a few years. Okay, now it's 2017. He's back in the news. So he already pretty much got away with what he did to these children. And yeah, he's probably doing the same thing all these years. I don't know if our father knew about it, but he was in the public light. So I don't know if he just brushed it off like all the allegations against Armstrong and his child and boys in the church that had come up. They're like, oh, well, we don't have proof. So we're just going to sweep that under the rug. He probably didn't do it. Not God's end time prophet. No way. So 2017, more women came forward. Yes. Brother Stair was arrested by the FBI that year, 2017. So he would be 84 during this time. And he was charged with criminal sexual conduct, including minors, kidnapping, assault, and burglary. Remember, the dude has quite the fucking temper, a temper that influenced our father and turning him into quite the bastard for quite a few years as well. It's just, that's the way it goes. You know, you rub off on other people here. So he came into the attention of authorities because there was this YouTube video that popped up showing him touching, trigger warning here, a 12-year-old girl's breasts in the middle of church. And he said something. He said, I'm going to touch them things till nobody else can touch them. And
What the fuck?
I have actually seen this video. I watched it years ago because just like researching Worldwide Church of God, I was also researching Brother Stair just to see what was up.
Tonight, new accusations from former members of a Colleton County church who say it's actually a cult.
The leader of Overcomer Ministry is under investigation after he can be seen on video reportedly touching the chest of a 12-year-old girl.
Now, for the first time, 3 women are telling our Harv Jacobs about what they call the horror that happened behind the gates of the ministry in this Live 5 News investigation.
Ralph Stair is a self-proclaimed prophet who spreads his message on the radio.
The kingdom of heaven is at hand, and Jesus Christ, Yeshua, is coming again in your lifetime. This is the last generation. Prepare to meet your God.
Some say the 84-year-old so-called preacher actually is a predator who preys on young girls and women. A video recently surfaced that apparently shows Stair cupping the breast of a 12-year-old girl during a church service. Listen to what he says.
I'm going to touch them things till nobody else can touch.
Oh my God.
It's fine. We'll go through it. Another video popped up, and this one was a 16-year-old girl accusing him of sexually assaulting her over a 5-month period. 4 women described assaults, including like he would grope them, he would grape them. And Stair told the women that they were acts of God.
He's so freaking old at this point, but it's also the first point in time when there's a way for something happening on the compound to easily get visible to the outside world.
Right.
So it's like, was this his MO the whole fucking time and this is going on? Or is he like old enough now that he's kind of senile and like behaviors that he was able to mostly keep under wraps for his life, like starts just like he's just like lost it enough that he's convinced himself it's fine now, you know?
Haven't we covered that exact same thing on this channel too? Armstrong did the same thing when he started to get old and senile. He just didn't give a shit anymore. He said exactly what was on his mind. He did what he wanted. He would walk around naked, whatever the fuck it was. Winston Churchill did the same thing. I'm sure the same thing happened with this Brother Stair. But there were allegations made against him in 2002, and he actually went to jail for it. And here he is back on the compound, and he's doing the same fucking thing and getting away with it. This shit pisses me off.
Yes.
So
Children.
he died. Children. And I hope he never, I hope he never touched our little sister. Oh my God. He was 87 when he died. He died in 2021. And those victims, they never got a chance to have their say in court. He died before he was ever held responsible for the things that he did.
God damn, I hope there's been therapy available to those people.
I hope so. And I hope, like for anyone listening, if you were a survivor of the Overcomer Ministries or like if you lived on the commune, we want to talk to you. We would love to interview if you want to tell your story, because we are not here just because we were raised in Worldwide Church of God. We also had parents that were in Overcomer Ministries, Restored Church of God, basically any high control organization. We're here to discuss all of them.
If you do come from any of those ministries and you feel like maybe you'd be willing to share your story, I would encourage you to look through some of our other interviews that we have done with survivors of the Worldwide Church of God. We work really hard to make a space that is safe for you to share whatever it is you need to share. And we would seek to honor your story. So thank you for considering interviewing with us if you were in fact from the Overcomer Ministries.
Yeah, so I'm definitely glad we're covering Brother Stair, because this is just a whole nother window of fuckery that people have had to go through, even though we did not really witness a whole lot of it personally. It happened to the closest people in our lives, our parents.
Well, and given the fact that we did go through these high control environments, and we can both see, Nancy, how we like put ourselves into more high control environments because it felt familiar until we've worked through some of our things. The other half of what we do with our channel is talk through the psychological effects and the healing process that happens after you've been in a high control environment like this.
I'm glad we covered this particular chapter of our lives, even though it was only a few years. It was definitely like some pretty fucking impactful years when you're like graduating high school and going into college and trying to navigate the world. Again, going back to a world that we were taught to hate, and the people in it. After a while, I'm just like, you know what? Fuck our parents. I don't even want to talk to them. Maybe like I'm just trying to do life here. So yeah, for a while, I just didn't even care what they were up to out there in South Carolina. So like they were kind of dead to me for a while.
Totally. Me too. Me too. Yeah. It was like I was just glad they were gone and out of my life so that they could like leave me the fuck alone and let me do life, even though I realized, it would have been nice to have like a normal family that was there to go home for holidays and stuff like that. Be like, oh, mom, I'm struggling with this thing in life. But nope, it was just like, poof, out you go.
Well, Patty, at least we had each other. I know you and I were not necessarily like close or considered to be friends for a long time because we were dealing with our own shit. Both of us were experiencing what was going on, and we were both reacting to it in some ways similarly, but different in other ways. And then we finally came together later on as adults. And then here we are talking about this finally so that we can get on the same page, be like, look at all of this fuckery. Look
Well,
at how it has damaged us.
yes, exactly how it has damaged us. And we can then start to pinpoint what it was about those growing up experiences that caused it, right? Because just talking about it, just to bitch about it, wouldn't be useful. But
Right.
if we can share our experience and our untangling of those knots, perhaps that'll be useful to someone else who's either still already in it or like us, they're years past their cult experience and wondering why they're still struggling.
Right.
So that's the part I wanted to talk about here at the end is just like the psychological true things that happen to people from their time in high control environments, right? Because when you're talking about high control environments, they have to kind of take away you. A high
Right.
control
Oh,
environment
absolutely.
means you can't be an individual because conformity to the rigors of that group take precedence over everything. And so, being born into something like that, you end up at a place of not knowing who you are or not knowing how to be in your own body, to stand on your own 2 feet kind of thing, because you're just looking for someone to tell you what to do.
Right. Well, don't you think it's so sad that this whole time I think our father has meant well, and he's just seeking the truth so bad, and he just doesn't trust himself to find it. He needed to latch on to these con men who just took advantage of him.
Well, and so, we talk about the things that we can identify that we are dealing with as a part of like our religious trauma. And so I have to imagine that he's got all those same things, but he's like fine with it, because, all right, so the things that come out of being in a high control religion like this is you'll land yourself having chronic shame, anxious, being fearful of being punished or doing something wrong,
Right.
even trusting yourself or being able to trust other people or, a group again, because groups come across as scary. That's a thing that
Yeah.
we've talked about a lot, so I guess it's maybe to make it more general, the idea of feeling unworthy or inadequate. I think that's the base layer of what these groups need to put into you is that you're not good enough.
Right.
And once you believe that, honestly, they own you,
Yeah.
right? And so in some ways, it's like maybe that's what our dad is at, that he doesn't think he's good enough. It's weird though, because he acts like he's great. But I don't know. It's that weird Christian thing that breaks your brain by telling you that you're wonderful, beautiful, made by God, loved, and also a sinner and worthy
Right.
of eternal torture. It fucks you up.
Something that our father has always done is, and I think you and I might actually do the same thing, is he uses humor to kind of mask or hide how he truly feels.
Hmm.
I know I've done that too. Like I just try to laugh about stuff because I just don't know how to deal with it otherwise. So I just did the
Ooh.
humorous side of it.
I do it too. I mean, honestly, isn't that why our channel, like why we're funny too?
Are we funny? I don't know.
Yeah, we're funny. We do comedy things. But I think that's why. I think that we learned through our dad to laugh and to find things funny. And
Yeah.
so in some ways that has helped us because we can be like, oh, persistent anxiety, social isolation, not knowing how to build a community for myself. That's funny. No, it's not.
Well, yeah, we laugh about it, but it
Shit.
is really fucked up. Yeah.
No, it is really fucked up. But okay, I know I was trying to be silly there. But really,
No,
those are the things that we take away from being a part of a high control environment. Whether you grew up in it or you were just in it for a little while, I would say these things hold true for people coming out of evangelicalism also. And probably the greater the control, the higher the impact on who you are trying to be after that. Right? Because we've got the anxiety and depression, feeling like you need to be perfect, eek, which kind of leads to some obsessive compulsive kind of stuff. You can have a weak sense of who you are. I mean, I guess that just seems obvious, but then think about boundaries, right? So, like, if you don't even know who you are or what you're allowed to have that's for you, you have nothing in you to be like, hey, it's not okay that you do that to me. You know? So boundaries are
I
hard for so many of us anyway, because our society doesn't like them. We are kind of set up through public school and things to be, I don't know, open to being controlled. Because if you try to hold your boundaries, it doesn't fit the groups that want you to do certain things for them,
Yes. But
right? Yeah.
if people can't control you, they will just coerce you. They'll get you to feel like you are not good enough and you shouldn't trust your own mind, and then they've got you. I am just finally starting to realize that I can set boundaries. I'm really uncomfortable placing them because I feel like I don't know, like I'm being a total bitch or like I'm not being helpful. I'm like, no,
Yes.
keep these
Ooh.
boundaries in place or people are just going to take advantage of me. Do not take my mistake my kindness as weakness.
Thank you. Exactly. Exactly. Ugh.
It's something
Well,
we're still
right.
working on, but yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Well, right. Because the
Yep.
people pleasing stuff, it flies in the face of boundaries. And, it's like women are told in church to be what, more like what is it? Be like a Mary, not a Martha or whatever, except that was the story of the two sisters where Martha was the one running around making everything ready for the meal and getting ready, but Mary was just like sitting at Jesus's feet. And then there was this whole idea of like, oh, that you should be more like Mary. Just look at Jesus. Except then everything that like was gender charged meant that the women had to go around and do all the work and be the Martha. So it was this weird, you're not supposed to be that, you're supposed to be this, except that's your job.
Is that where the Martha thing comes into play in Handmaid's Tale?
Oh,
They're
yes,
they're
it
called
has to
Martha.
be. Oh my
They're called
God.
Martha. Yeah.
Yes, I'm sure it is. Oh,
Oy.
icky. Oh, okay, that just made me feel horrible. Yes, I think that's why.
Yeah. There you go.
Okay, well, I guess the other results of this kind of thing is the black and white thinking, right? Because everything about a culty environment, a high control environment like this is us and everything else is them. And so to have a discussion about nuance or facets of a problem just don't exist, which is like all the critical things for critical thinking, you know? So I mean, it's just like we are absolutely damaging brains that are left in environments like this. And for people who were in environments like this, they have to do a lot of work to regain these things, to even know that these ways of thinking exist and are safe. Right? Because so many people also deal with intrusive thoughts about this because all of the words of judgment are in their head because they heard them so much. So anything they want to do that falls outside of what they were supposed to do triggers all these nasty voices coming at them and the icky feelings in their body.
Yeah.
And so we can't, like, our own natural human emotions and processing and everything gets hijacked and gets stuck as like shit, as traumas, actual traumas, right? That's what a trauma is. A trauma is a negative experience that happens that you're not able to do the complete processing of. And so it's stuck there as like an open wound that can be ready to jump and protect you again at any moment. And so that's what these kind of environments cause within us. And they're like traumas that can't be closed because it's based on things that aren't real, right? They're talking about God stuff, Bible stuff, things that are objectively not real and threatening you with them. And if there's no way to close that until you realize, oh, there's not actually truth in that book, is the only way you can close those traumatic wounds given by a high control religious environment.
Wow, Patty, I'm glad you're so good at this, like the healing aspect of it.
I mean, it's not easy,
No, it's not. Not at all.
because you're taught in these environments to not even trust yourself or even what you experienced, and imagine like even in evangelical things, like you're taught, oh, God's speaking to you, whatever, and you've got a feeling in your body and you think it's God. And then when you come out of all of that, you're like, oh, and you don't know what was real in your life.
Well, right.
Yikes.
That's why,
Right?
like, Christianity in general, or like all religions in general, are fucking dangerous. We need to be able to figure out what is real and what isn't. And when you're just speaking about something like faith alone, what the fuck is that? Then why put your faith in this thing and not this thing over here? You are so gullible under those circumstances and so primed for abuse.
But for people to be able to feel safe, like internally safe, and have a stable life and to live like their authentic self, a life where they get to know who they are,
Yeah.
that takes a long recovery. And it
A
takes,
lifetime. A
it
lifetime.
does, and building new friendships, but mostly learning to trust yourself and befriend your own nervous system.
Yes.
Because your nervous system bore so much of the damage from the high control environment. And so getting to honor those human reactions that you're having and to understand why they're there and where they came from and kind of learn to love those parts of you. And I know I go to the internal family systems model, like our little internal snapshots, but that's really true, and until we do the work of seeing those parts as parts, they just live in a big chaotic mess within us and jump out at any time that they think they need to, and so to really be embodied and to feel like you can trust your own reactions and know that you're going to make your best choices for yourself as much as you can, that takes a long time, and it probably takes working with a therapist, and it probably takes a lot of tears, like this is the work, but this is the work that we got to do not only for ourselves, but for other people, because this is a human thing. This isn't just like, oh, fix yourself. No, this is humans being human together. And we only get out of this scourge of religious control together.
I did also just want to speak to all the survivors out there. I know you and I were impacted by Brother Stair's teachings for a while. We weren't like directly in it necessarily, but it split our family apart. It changed who our father was. I had never seen him like that before, and we just whatever we had of him was gone because of Brother Stair. But I do want to give my heart out to these survivors of Brother Stair who never got their justice. They never got their justice. He died before they had a chance to get their voices out. But what we can do is talk about this so that it doesn't continue to happen.
Exactly. So much love. There you go.
So much love to all the survivors out there, not just of Armstrong's cults or cults like the Overcomer Ministry under Brother Stair, all of them. They all work in very similar ways, and yes, we are here for you. We're all healing together.